This morning, we're keeping you and your family safe with a new warning on teen dating violence. The CDC says about 1 in 12 teens experience physical violence through dating, and 1 in 10 go through sexual violence from their partner.
Often, teen dating violence hides right in plain sight. GMAT's Emma Kay joins us with more on how to recognize the signs and what to do if you or someone you know is dealing with this kind of violence. Emma?
February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Dating violence can happen in person, online, or through our phones. Often it starts small, such as an insult disguised as a joke, but it doesn't end there. Teen violence can be broken down into 4 categories: emotional, physical, digital, and sexual. No matter what form it takes, experts say teen dating violence doesn't discriminate.
Happens across all demographics, ethnicities, nationalities, but about 19% of teens will experience it.
Dating violence happens when one partner tries to control or cause harm to the other, and it impacts millions of young people here in the U.S. Studies show that unchecked negative or abusive behaviors within relationships are more likely to increase over time. Signs to look out for include excessive jealousy or insecurity, invasions of your privacy, or unexpected bouts of anger. If your partner is preventing you from going out with or talking to other people, or is constantly monitoring your whereabouts, making false accusations, and threatening or engaging in physical violence. If you think you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, it's important to reach out for help. Teens dealing with dating violence are encouraged to confide in a trusted friend, parent, or mentor, and know that you're not alone.
All right, Emma, thanks for that. If you or someone you know is a victim of dating violence, help is available right now. You can actually contact the Texas Department of Family Services here at the number on your screen, or go online at txabusehotline.org. You can also call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. We've got all that information for you right there on the screen. If you're streaming us, take a screenshot of it. If you're watching, write this down. We'll continue to have this number here throughout the morning here on GMAT.